A minimal pay job stocking shelves at a grocery store isn't exactly what I had in mind. I couldn't believe my good fortune when I spotted the advertisement in our neighborhood paper. I was able to keep up with my schoolwork because of the flexible hours and the fact that the compensation was far higher than the minimum wage. It appeared to be ideal. Noon stalker required Freddy's fresh foods from 6 in the morning till 6 in the morning. The hourly rate, $18. Apply in person. No prior experience required. Only ability to work independently is required. It seemed too wonderful to be true, and I should have known better. I needed money badly, and this job sounded like it would solve all my issues. I needed money for college applications, and my mom had been nagging me about obtaining a job to assist with bills. This prompted me to apply the next day when I went to Freddy's Fresh Foods. This dilapidated building on the outskirts of town housed the business. I must have driven by it 1,000 times, but I had never set foot inside. I reasoned beggars can't have it all, even though the old sign and dim lighting didn't exactly promise freshly prepared meals. The aroma was the first thing that struck me when I entered. It had the odor of decaying veggies combined with a metallic taste. As I walked to the customer service counter, I suppressed my gag reflex. I presumed the manager was none other than this scrawny old man with thinning gray hair and heavy spectacles, Mr. Freddy. He hired me immediately after giving my application a cursory look. "You'll start tonight," he said, his voice as hoarse as if he had smoked for a century. "Meet at 9:45 sharp. So, I will provide you with the guidelines." Perceiving it as strange that he wished to forego any daytime training. Anyway, I had no intention of disputing it. Aside from a rusted pickup truck that I presumed belonged to Mr. Freddy, the parking area was deserted when I arrived that evening. With the open sign barely glowing in the window, the business appeared even more eerie in the darkness, with keys jingling in his bony fist. Mr. Freddy patiently waited by the front entrance. With a swift motion, he led me inside and secured the door in our wake. "Listen up," he commanded, forcefully placing a folded sheet of paper in my grasp. "Here are the guidelines. Write them down. Adhere strictly to them. The stakes are high." I trembled with laughter, believing he was kidding. His expression was one of intense seriousness as his tear-filled eyes locked onto mine. "I'm not kidding, kid," he said with a growl. "I cannot ensure your safety if you violate these guidelines. Do you get it?" Realizing all of a sudden that I had utterly bungled something. It seemed like some sort of grocery store. His return time was announced as 6 a.m. quick to release you. Leave no earlier than that. Every window and door is beeping its horn. After that, he departed. The store was dark and silent, and I was alone. I frantically unfurled the paper and read the guidelines, my hands trembling with fear. First, primary lighting should always be turned on. In the event that they go off, you should report to the break room without delay and remain there until they return. Second, under no circumstances should you go into the walk-in freezer. The third piece of advice is to stay indoors until the singing ceases. If you spot a child in the store, do not say anything to them or engage with them. Number 5. Keep your hands off anything that has fallen to the floor even if you think you know where it came from. Number 6. Regardless of what happens, you must not exit the store before 6 a.m. with my heart racing. I fixed my gaze on the list. These rules were really ridiculous. You knew that was a joke, didn't you? Some sort of orientation ceremony for new hires. I had a feeling, though, that it wasn't. There was an overwhelming amount of terror in Mr. Freddy's eyes. To try to collect myself, I inhaled deeply. I assured myself it would be all right. If you play by the rules, you'll be fine. You should take this job. I dove into my job, attempting to concentrate on what was ahead. It wasn't hard stocking shelves. It was monotonous and repetitious. Everything was well for the first half an hour. Aside from the infrequent beeps of the refrigerators, there was complete silence. Then I heard it as I was reloading the cereal aisle. Somewhere in the store, there is a gentle, unsettling melody. It shivered through me. My thoughts whirled to rule number 3. Get into cover as soon as you hear singing and stay put until it ends. As I sprinted to the next aisle, I let go of the box of Fruit Loops, escorting a paper towel display. I felt like my heart was going to explode from all the rapid beating. As it drew nearer, the singing grew louder. I felt the hair on my neck stand up because it sounded completely out of sync with any song I knew. The sound of approaching footfall made me hold my breath. Something was clearly not in a rush because they moved at a leisurely pace. At my eye's periphery, the footfall came to a halt with a tight grip on my eyelids. I prayed it wouldn't descend here. Finally, after what seemed like an endless period, the music and footfall continued. I mustered up the will to move only when their voices grew silent. I could hardly walk when I stood up because my legs were shaking so badly. My God, what on earth was that? I really wanted to skip out on my shift and just hide in the break room. However, I was aware that I would be unable to do so. Having this employment was crucial. In order to motivate myself to continue working, I paused to take a few deep breaths. At this point, though, I jumped at the slightest noise. Even the typical building noises, such creaks and moans, sounded menacing. At about 2 in the morning, while I was replenishing the dairy area, I perceived a resounding thump emanating from the walk-in freezer. I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder, almost expecting to glimpse a terrifying figure hiding behind me. Recalling rule number 2 caused me to freeze. Under no circumstances should you step foot in the walk-in freezer. Beat, beat, beat. It felt as if something was attempting to escape. I started to fantasize about all the terrifying things that could be stowed away in there. Then, out of the freezer came a voice, barely audible yet distinct. "Is that you? Who could it be? There must be a way out of this. I am stranded." The voice belonged to a woman, and her fear was palpable. I felt compelled to assist her with every fiber of my being. Nevertheless, the parameters. "Oh my," she pleaded. "My fingers have lost all sensation. There's no way I can survive this cold." Paralyzed by indecision, I stood there. How could I simply abandon the person trapped within if this were indeed real? What if, however, it was an illusion? Could this be an examination of some sort? "Please, I implore you," the voice cried out. "Just open the door, please. One more dot. One more dot. It's too much." It was imperative that I lend a hand. The handle of the fridge door sprang to my grasp. The moment my bare fingertips made contact with the icy metal, the shop's illumination ceased, as if my hand had been scorched. I pulled it back. I had a fleeting thought about rule number 1. Please remain in the break room until the lights are turned back on. If the power goes out, I felt my way through the store as I dashed through the pitch black. Something was rustling behind me, but I was too scared to turn around. It seemed like hours passed before the lights were turned back on. After I stormed into the break room and slammed the door behind me, I sobbed and crouched in the corner. Everything appeared to be as it had been the whole time when I mustered the nerve to exit the break room. But at this point in time, I was aware of better. It was anything but ordinary here. Feelings of horror washed over me for the remainder of the night. Every darkness made me flinch, and every sound made me jump. I was a nervous wreck when 6 a.m. eventually came around. The front door was promptly unlocked by Mr. Freddy. After glancing at my flushed, perspiring face, he grimaced and nodded. "You succeeded," he remarked. "Fantastic work, youngster." Coming up later on, there was a part of me that was sick with curiosity about what other horrors this institution held, and another part that wanted to quit at that very moment, but I was in desperate need of the money. So then, the following night, and the night after that, I returned. With every change came fresh nightmares. A tiny girl skipped down an aisle one night. She seemed completely ordinary and genuine. However, I drew on rule number 4 and made it a point to disregard her. And that was even after she began to sob and implore me to find her mother. At about 3 in the morning, someone started banging on the front door. I needed to let go my guard right away as a man's voice yelled out, claiming to be from the police. Rule 6, nevertheless, came back to me. Under no circumstances may you exit the business before 6 a.m. as the speaker grew increasingly irate and threatened to smash the door in my face. I remained motionless. At 6 a.m., "You're still here," Mr. Freddy remarked as he appeared taken aback to see me. "This is great. You are making progress in your studies." Concerning the police and the strange events that persisted, I intended to question him about them. Still, I had the impression that he wouldn't be forthcoming with honest responses. My ability to adhere to the guidelines improved as the weeks progressed. By listening to my gut, I was able to figure out when things wasn't quite right. However, the atrocities persisted regardless of my caution or adherence to the regulations. They were also becoming worse. Round the 1-month mark of my employment, I was refilling the canned foods section one evening when I heard it. That awful singing once more. In an instant, I'd have behind a pile of boxes. My breath caught in my throat. I was almost at the end of my aisle when the singing began. It ceased after that. I remained motionless, afraid to move an inch. Minutes passed, and then seconds. Nothing has changed. The long wait was finally over as I cautiously peered around the corners of the containers. That spot was devoid of any life. Rose up and uttered a nervous breath. Probably just a false alarm. However, before returning to my task, I noticed an item on the floor that was clearly not there earlier. A tiny, crimson sphere. I kept hearing Rule No. 5. Keep your hands off anything that has fallen to the floor even if you think you know where it came from. With my pulse pounding, I fixed my gaze on the ball, sitting there. It seemed so innocent. However, I was aware of better. Every single item in this shop was guilty. I ought to have just let things be. The rules should have guided me. However, my insatiable curiosity led me to reach down and grab the ball. The moment my fingertips made contact with it, the ball ruptured. My hand was coated with a thick, black substance that poured out. I let out a scream of agony as it stung like acid. As much as I wanted to let go of the ball, it wouldn't budge from my grasp. As the black ooze engulfed my arm, I suddenly heard a noise. I turned around to face something, and there was singing directly behind me. Its appearance was almost human, yet off. Its face, skin, and excessively lengthy limbs all had an unappealing gray hue. The top half of it, instead of eyes, there were vacant black sockets. As it emitted that dreadful sound, it parted its lips to expose rows of pointed teeth. Screaming, I bolted away. Rules were no longer important to me. I wished I could just escape from that place. Hurriedly making my way to the front entrance, I struggled with the lock but was unsuccessful in opening it. I felt ensnared. Something was approaching. I sprinted for the break room in a state of urgency as I could hear its horrible singing. Directly behind me, I couldn't think of any other place where I could feel protected. As soon as the creature approached the door, I slammed it shut. It screamed and sang as it banged on the door. The impact of its punches sent tremors through the entire room. I sobbed and prayed in a corner until 6 in the morning, yet to arrive. It felt like the beating and singing would never end. Out of nowhere, it came to a halt. The quiet was nearly more disturbing than the din. I was so terrified that I couldn't even breathe. I heard the front door open after what seemed like hours. "Kid, you in here?" Mr. Freddy's voice demanded. I emerged from the break room wobbly-kneed. Inside, Mr. Freddy glanced at me once. "Did you not violate the rules?" He spoke. I could only nod, my voice quivering. Still covered in that black ooze, I raised my palm to show it. With a shake of his head, he rejected the idea. It was my warning. I have mentioned their significance. Excuse me. What was that? In the end, I was able to ask. The expression on his face betrayed his true feelings. "Thank goodness you were able to get the break room before it was too late. Some people haven't been as fortunate." That day, I decided to go. This was not worth any amount of money. However, Mr. Freddy interrupted me just as I was about to leave, telling me, "Listen, kid, nothing leaves Freddy's Fresh Foods except what happens there. Do you see the point?" Having faith in my own voice. "Things don't always remain in the store," he warned. "So it's probably for the best that you don't tell anyone about what goes on here. They may even seek you out. You definitely do not want it." Believe me, the singing, the hammering on the door, and those vacant black eyes continue to haunt me in my nightmares. Even though I fled the town that day and traveled as far away as possible, on occasion, especially when I'm sleeping alone, I think I can make out the sound of approaching music. Do yourself a favor and apply for a job at Freddy's Fresh Foods or a similar place. Whenever you see an ad, forget about it, no matter how much money is on the table or how bad things get. Some tasks aren't worth the effort, and some regulations should be strictly adhered to. I still haven't gotten over the fact that it's been 3 years since I left my work at Freddy's. Fresh foods, I attempted to go on with my life, but that spot keeps coming back to haunt me. The nightmares persisted even after I finished college and secured a regular job at a regular store. I would break out in a cold sweat every night because the sound of that horrible singing would reverberate in my head. After that, something happened last week that really frightened me. A little convenience store caught my eye on my way home from work. It wasn't the help wanted sign in the window. That grabbed my attention, though. The store's name was that. Freddy's is a grocery store. There was no way. The distance between us was hundreds of miles. Surely this wasn't the same store. But while I remained transfixed by the sign, I noticed activity indoors. Someone we know, tall and lean, with thinning gray hair. Salutations, Mr. Freddy. Through the window, our gazes met as he lifted his head to look up. A creepy grin crept over his face. I bolted to my apartment by myself. But I was aware it would be ineffective. I can hear singing outside my door as I sit here writing this. They had found me. I can feel it growing nearer and louder. I wanted to let you all know that I am uncertain about what is going to happen to me. There's more than one location of Freddy's Fresh Foods. It is going viral, so get out of there as soon as you see that name or any job offer that sounds too good to be true. Get away from here as quickly as possible, since Freddy's Fresh Foods will not relinquish its grip once it has you hooked. What about nighttime? My experience at Freddy's Fresh Foods has gone viral online. For some, it's all simply a scary tale designed to get people to click and share. My heart would leap for joy if that were the case. I have a caution, though, for the people who are aware, who have seen the warning signals, and who get a shiver whenever they drive by an unusually quiet supermarket late at night. They're changing shape these days. It's not only Freddy's. Various more stores and names have been mentioned to me in passing. Down at Murphy's Market, Wells Foods, distinct moniker, identical dreads. Rules are also evolving. Their intelligence and subtlety are increasing. Avoiding the freezer or ignoring the singing aren't always the only options. The rules don't always agree with each other. At times, adhering to one regulation necessitates violating another. And what happens then? They're deteriorating, from what I've heard. Some employees vanish entirely during their first shift. A few others manage to escape, changed, to the point where they feel as though something essential has been taken away from them or replaced. The number of these stores is unknown to me. Neither the places nor the workers are something I'm familiar with. Yet I am aware that they are propagating. My long-lost high school pal called me last month. His new work at a 24-hour convenience shop had him giddy with excitement. He gushed about the salary. His educational schedule was ideal for those hours. As he detailed the interview procedure, my spirits plummeted. The peculiar inquiries, the stress on conformity. I attempted to alert him. As I pleaded with him not to accept the position, I related my backstory. He shrugged it off and claimed I was just a horror movie junkie. In the past 3 weeks, he has been silent. Everything I've done, including going to his place, texting, and calling, has been in vain. He seemed to have disappeared without a trace. And the shop he was an employee at, also gone, is it? No one is in the building. Just a sign in the window, as if it never was. Further, I am at a loss as to what to do. I think I'm losing my mind. Seems like every time I go by a store, there's an assistance wanted sign. Is there a connection between them? Can you find a place that is secure? Along with it, I've begun to notice other things. Store logos conceal mysterious symbols, quotations used in job postings that don't make sense. It's as if our regular lives are masking a whole other, hidden reality. And occasionally, in the middle of the night, I hear what sounds like singing, coming at it from all directions simultaneously, rather than just one. A gentle, unsettling tune that gives me the willies. This is my last warning, and I'm writing it down. This is for everyone who has been through anything similar, or is thinking about getting a night work at a store you've never heard of. Resist the urge, the depth of your desperation, regardless of the attractiveness of the offer. The moment you step inside and witness what is beyond the curtain, there's no turning back. A grocery shop will never be the same to you again. In the dark, you will never feel safe. The worst part is that you have no idea whether you've actually escaped. Honestly, I have no idea how much further I can run. I sense that they are drawing near. The line between reality and my paranoia blurs with each passing day. We would very appreciate it if you could get in touch if you are reading this and can relate. Perhaps we may discover the truth if we work together. Hopefully, we can figure out how to stop it. But tread carefully. Keep your guard up. Why? Because they might well be someone you know. The moment you hear music, you must flee the area without turning around. The night shift is beckoning, and I really doubt I'll have any chance of evading them this time. Since I last provided an update, it has been 6 months. Things have gotten worse, which is why I'm taking so long to write again. I began receiving hundreds of responses following the success of my most recent post. Some came from doubters who accused me of being attention-seeking or insane. On the other hand, there were others that came from those who had survived the night shift just like me. We began to bond over common experiences and began to seek commonalities. The discovery we made was dreadful. These days, it's not only supermarkets. Similar incidents have allegedly occurred at hotels, gas stops, and even hospitals. The night shift, the peculiar regulations, and the dire repercussions for disobeying them are constants. Now we get to the terrifying phase. Their motivation for this action appears to have been revealed to us. Recruiting has begun. Some of us manage to stay alive and make it through the night. Without being captured or altered, people are interested in us. Somehow, we've shown that we're worthy, and now they intend to attack us. I no longer have any communication with half of my former co-workers. I can't find them anywhere. Absent, farewell, has just departed. Those that remained attempted to mount a defense in an effort to forewarn potential employees before they accept the position. We have begun to map out the locations of these spots. On the other hand, it's somewhat challenging. We seem to be able to close to stores for every one that opens up elsewhere. We are beginning to suspect that this is much more extensive than we initially thought. The government is ignoring the problem, and police records are disappearing, as if a vast network were guarding these locations. However, why is that? Can you tell me what they desire? Tell me what they're getting ready for. Nobody knows. However, we will discover the answer. Caution is advised for anyone reading this, that night work is not for you. Entering that store after dark is not a good idea, and if you happen to hear singing, you already know the drill. I am uncertain of my ability to continue in this state. A closer approach is possible. This is real. A little red ball, identical to the one in Freddy's, was on my nightstand when I woke up last night. Nothing touched it. I will not repeat that error. However, upon I returned from the restroom, it had vanished. Now they're playing me for a fool, telling me they can reach me anytime they want. Tonight, I am departing. This is not going to work for me, and I have no idea where I'm heading. I'll do my best to keep you posted as I can, but in the meantime, keep in mind that the night shift is constantly hiring. However, some positions are better kept vacant. Continue to exercise caution when you are outdoors. Additionally, adhere to all regulations at all times, for the simple reason that failure in this game has far-reaching consequences. They claim you as their own, never ending.